Hello everybody, welcome to this module on EvalPro. EvalPro is the module in Bodhitree that deals with the automated evaluation of programming assignments that are submitted in Bodhitree. My name is Varsha Apte and I am a colleague of Professor Kameshwari and Professor Bhaskaran, and I am also in the Department of Computer Science in IIT Bombay. So, by now you must be quite familiar with the use of automated evaluation of various types of questions. In this course itself, you are submitting answers in the in-video quizzes, and you are also now checking out SAFE, you are doing the out-video quizzes. Everywhere the answers that you are submitting are corrected by the server itself, by the application itself. So questions like multiple choice questions, numerical answers, fixed text answers, these are clearly made made such that a computer can evaluate these easily. You don't need a human to evaluate them. In fact, it is very boring for humans to evaluate such questions. Programming assignments can also be given to students in such a way that they can be auto-evaluated. A key requirement for programming assignments to be suitable for auto evaluation is that their input and output format should be defined clearly. Let me give you an example. Suppose you give to your say 11th standard students or 12th standard students, you give a lab assignment, a programming lab assignment, where you say that write a program to calculate the determinant of a matrix. Now, if you say only this much, then the students may read their input, which is the matrix, and write the output, which is the determinant, in whatever format they choose. Now, you can evaluate it. You will have to sit with the student runs the program, gives the input herself, shows the output herself. You can do the calculation that the determinant is correct, but you will have to sit and do it manually. Instead, if you define the input and output clearly, you can try and automate it. For example, this particular example will not be only that write a program to calculate the determinant of a matrix. You have to write this part also, which describes the input and the output as follows. The program will read as input the dimension of the matrix followed by the matrix, one row per line. Output is a single number, and when you write it like this, you should also show an example in your programming question itself. So this is a sample input. This says that the program will read as input the dimension of the matrix, and then after that the matrix, one row per line. So here it says that it's a 2 by 2 matrix, and 3, 4 and 1, 2 are the 2 rows of the matrix. And then the sample output is just a single number, which is the determinant. Here it's 6 minus 4, so 2 is the determinant of this matrix. Now this is something that can be evaluated automatically by a computer. Why? Because the input is fixed, so you can write a program to give this input to the student's program, and then you can write another program that compares this sample output with the correct output. Now, what are the benefits to the instructor? Obviously, as I gave you the example before, if this determinant question you had 100 students or 500 students, like you have sometimes in colleges and large online courses, you would have to do many steps that are very mechanical, like you have to compile the code, you have to run it for many input output examples. These input output examples are called test cases. So if you are sitting with the student, or you have the student's submission for the matrix problem, you would have many examples of matrices, and you would have pre-calculated the determinant, the correct determinant, and you'll have to keep giving this as input, keep seeing the output, keep looking somewhere in another file what the correct answers are, and keep doing this manually. So this is obviously going to take too much time. And what this does is takes away time from the actual qualitative evaluation that needs a human. So if you wanted to see whether the code style is good, the variable name choice is good, it's readable, there are a lot of comments and the comments are sensible, this part is actually very difficult to automate. So instead of wasting time on the mechanical tasks, we can automate the programs, automate the program evaluation, and focus on the quality of the code, evaluating the quality of the code manually. Now, if this automated evaluation is not only available to the instructor but to the student also, then the student actually gets instant feedback on the correctness of the code. So let me give you an example again of the determinant. Now I will just go back. Instead of such a small matrix, suppose it was a 20 by 20 matrix, and the determinant of that matrix has to be found. Now this is something the student will not be able to calculate manually. So in this case, if the student is able to submit the program and then check the answer on the outputs that are saved, on the correct outputs that are saved on the server itself, then this kind of instant feedback will also be very useful to the student. So the other feedback that the other use of getting of automated evaluation being offered to students also is that if there are format mismatches in their output, then they can get to know those earlier and fix their programs so that they fix the output format. So not only do the instructors get a benefit by automated evaluation, it helps the students also. So to help the students actually write programs that are more likely to be correct, the instructor should give many sample input output test cases for practice to the students. But some sample input output test cases should be reserved for the final evaluation and marks and not be shown to the student. Now these are the benefits, but for everything that is good, there is always also something bad. So auto evaluation of programs is not a solution to everything. There is, as you can see from the overview that I showed, auto evaluation of programs is very sensitive to the format of the output. So let's say the answer of some program is 4, and we expect that the answer should be written as the answer is 4. But then if the student submits as answer :4, then the match will fail and the students will not get marks. So this can lead to some student frustration. Also, there are no tools right now to evaluate the quality of the code, and also if you have asked the students to use certain methods, for example, if you have asked the students to use an array, let's say there is some example which has 10 variables to be stored, 10 values need to be stored, so you want the students to use an array but they used 10 separate variables. There is no way that an auto evaluator can tell this difference, because auto evaluator is only comparing the output. Plus anything that is manual always has a personal touch. You know, in auto evaluation you don't see the teacher who is evaluating. This is the problem with any kind of auto evaluation. Finally, and most importantly, auto evaluation cannot ensure that there is no cheating in programming exams. Just like I mean, in manual evaluation, in fact, if you're looking at the code a little, if you're observing the student, that maybe there is some likelihood, you know, you may ask a question to the student, there is some chance that you might find that the student has just submitted his friend's code, but in auto evaluation the program will just get automatically evaluated, it will get marks. So just because it is auto evaluation, please don't assume that online, you know, you can give a programming exam online, because there is no way to control what the student will do when she is or he is not being supervised by you. So before you use any auto evaluation system, again, to just summarize what we just said in the before, you should have the problem statement where you have the detailed description in words, including the input and output description. You should know what programming language you are going to use, and the compiler command. Some of the tools will require a compiler command. Any other helper code or some manuals that you are going to do, and also before you start configuring a programming assignment for auto evaluation, you should first think through the test cases, and some test cases you have to give for practice and some test cases for evaluation. So the practice ones will be visible to the students and the others are not visible. You may also want to have a solution code ready, but that is not really required for at least for EvalPro. Just to again explain practice versus evaluation test cases. Practice test cases are visible to the students. These are mainly to help students check their own code and check the format of the output. You may want to give a little more simpler test cases to the students for practice, and keep the corner cases and some interesting cases for marks, so that those students who thought of these things themselves will get marks. This should be used for grading, and these the practice ones are not really for marks. So the typical flow of steps to configure and use EvalPro for auto evaluation of students assignments, programming assignments, are as follows. First, the instructor uploads the assignment description with the input output format, then configures the assignment and with the programming language and compiler, then uploads the input and output, or configures. You don't have to only upload, you can even write it on the browser, the input output test cases, and with these three steps the assignment is ready. Then the students will see the assignment. They will upload the assignment code. Once they are done with writing the code, they will run the visible test cases to test their program, and once they are they can keep submitting until they are happy with the how the test cases are performing, and then they can say that whatever code they have submitted is the final code for evaluation. Once this whole the assignment deadline is over, then the instructor can run the hidden test cases at any time actually, but typically instructor will do this after the deadline is over. Instructor will run the hidden test cases, the evaluation test cases, for evaluating all the students, and that's basically one button, and then the results are ready for all the students. So with this overview done, now let us move on to a demo of all of these basic features of EvalPro.